Steve, I want to thank you very much for coming in and talking with us today. I know that you and I have known each other for a long time. It's been a good relationship. The house we bought from you, we love, and we really enjoy being there. And I know you've helped some other clients of mine. And so I wanted to have you talk to me about some things that are of particular interest to different groups of my clients. Now, real estate, home ownership has really been central to the whole concept of the idea of the American dream. And having owned numerous homes and bought and sold homes, I'm very familiar on a personal basis from how having that gives you a sense of security and kind of anchors you in your neighborhood and in your community and all the benefits that that can offer. And so I'm not negative about owning homes, but I know that there are circumstances and timing that can sometimes make things, maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. And so one of the groups of people that we spend a lot of time working with are young resident physicians. They come to Dayton often from, about 80% of residents move at least 100 miles to go from their medical school to their residency. And depending upon the specialty that they go into, they're here in Dayton or whatever city that they're going to do their residency. They're there from 3 to maybe 5, 6, or 7 years. Again, depending upon the length of the study that they have to do to complete their training. And so, and they also start generally from a financial standpoint, they're 7, 10, maybe 12 years behind their contemporaries. In other words, they're not actually don't even have their first job until long after the people they grew up with have started working. And they generally have a mountain of student loan debt. I mean, it's not unusual to see individuals with more than $300,000 of student loan debt. As a matter of fact, it's gotten to the point where that's almost kind of a common number anymore. And so given that set of circumstances, a relatively short timeline for how long they're going to be in the community, and the other things that are kind of routine for that population, what's your feeling about whether somebody should come to a community and buy a home or rent under those circumstances? And also keep in mind that some of them are single, some of them are married, and some of them have families. And so all of that kind of comes into play. So share with us your wisdom on that.
Well, Keith, one thing that I just have to say to start, and that is I used to think that buying a home, owning a home was an American dream. But in my travels formerly as the president of the National Association of Realtors, that same dream, that same desire to own your own home is shared not only here in America, but certainly throughout the world. Everyone wants to be the king of their castle, the queen of their court, however you want to put it. And, a home, we call it a home. It's not just a house. It becomes a home. It becomes a home that is filled up with memories and events that are very personal and very much a part of the center of the family. Whether that family is defined as a family with children or a single person, it's still a family, and the family structure is still living out their life within those precious walls. So when it comes to buying a home, I think what the recession in the mid-2000s showed us, and that's that not everyone should buy a home. At some point in time, it becomes a very good financial decision. In fact, the Federal Reserve has some pretty comprehensive studies that show that home ownership does tremendously help one's wealth accumulation. And the studies are just phenomenal. So eventually, buying a home is a good financial decision. But that decision has to be based upon, especially at this point in a resident's life that is saddled with debt, but has a tremendous opportunity for financial well-being in the future. It has to be based upon good financial reasoning and decision-making power, something that you can help guide these residents through in this formative time in their life. But buying a home should be based upon, first of all, I think, how long are you going to be in the community? And sometimes that's very well known. If it's a 3-year program, a 5-year program, you really know the length of time. Sometimes you don't know. And you can be transferred and, programs change and you go off to some other place.
You start off as an anesthesiologist, you become a psychiatrist.
Exactly.
I've seen that happen.
Exactly. So you want to make a decision based upon how long you think you will be in the community. Mm-hmm. I would tell you today in our market that you should be here between 3 and 5 years if you want to purchase a home. Why is that? Well, because our market appreciates on the basis of, on the average, of 2 to 4% a year. Well, your closing costs when you go to sell a property are generally, you can kind of lump sum them in a rough rule of thumb into 6%, 6 to 7%. I would say generally 7%. Now that includes any selling fees that you would have, that transfer taxes, inspections that you might have to go through, and repairs that might need to be made. Mm-hmm. All of that you could kind of capsulate into a 7% figure. So if you're going to be in Dayton or in the Miami Valley area for less than 3 years, and we have, let's say, we hit a low appreciation rate of 2% a year, mm-hmm. that means that if you're not going to stay here more than 3 years, you're going to owe money, most likely, when you turn around and sell the property. So you have to make that decision as to what the appreciation rates. Now, right now in our market today,
doing very well.
We're doing very well. We are clearly at the high end of that average. So 4% a year would be most anticipated. I would say, especially we see this for the next 3 years. So mm-hmm. here in 2018, for the next 3 years, the market in the Miami Valley area should experience something closer to a 4% appreciation. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, then buying a
shorter
home,
time period makes more sense.
Makes good sense. And there is a difference between certainly buying and renting. No one washes a rental car.
That's true.
And so when you own your own home, it does give you that sense of pride, of ownership, and well-being and stability, mm-hmm. Because you know what your fees are, you know what your expenses are, and if you plan well, that can be a most enjoyable experience.
Yeah, but that again is a double-sided coin. I don't want to argue the point, but I also understand that being a homeowner implies certain responsibilities. And if you're a resident who really doesn't own his time for large parts of his training, to have to shovel the walk or the driveway, to have to mow the grass, to be responsible for the basic everyday upkeep is another element of that. And from my perspective, because the homes that I've purchased, those are things that I do because it's a part of my pride of ownership. I'm also not chained to my job the way some people are, and that creates some questions about that. So from a realistically, there's the other things that are involved in that too that you don't necessarily face when you rent. But at the same time, the other side of that is that the peace of mind, the comfort that you have in your own home as opposed to an apartment or a home that you rent. So from that, can you talk at least about our marketplace, about what the kind of differentials would be for comparable ownership cost versus rental of a single family home for that somebody in, with a maybe, just the resident income. Residents in Dayton make about $50,000. Mm-hmm. All right. If their spouse works, you don't know what their job might be. So maybe $100,000. So can you talk about the kind of the comparables between rent and own and what you can expect to get? Just a little bit of knowledge about that?
Sure. People that come to the Miami Valley area, the Dayton area, especially when they come in from out of state, sometimes they feel as though they've entered the real estate promised land
because
of our selling prices here.
Right.
We are, and this is proven time and again by national statistics, our housing values here are some of the best in the United
Most
States.
affordable.
Absolutely,
right.
The most affordable. So a home in Dayton, Ohio, that would be, say, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch with a basement, 2-car garage in a very, very nice community, would be selling for around $200,000. That same home in other parts of even the Midwest and even other parts in Ohio would be selling for double that.
Right.
And so they can, a new resident to this area can experience a tremendous opportunity to have that home that might even exceed their own expectations in their price range. Rental properties in Dayton, rental homes, we do have an inventory of rental homes, but the rental market here in the Dayton area tends to be a little bit thin.
Yeah.
We don't have that many rental homes. Of course, we have a large military population, in that we have Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So we do have a lot of military people who come in, and they know they're here for a 2 to 3 year stint.
Yeah, they get
and that's it. And so many of those rental properties are absorbed by the market very quickly.
That's an interesting dynamic I hadn't thought about.
Yeah, well, so I would say looking for a rental property here in the Miami Valley will be a bit of a challenge in finding something that's in the right school district that you want your kids to go to, in the right proximity to work. That's sometimes very important to a resident, that they would be within so many minutes of the hospital, and so forth. So there would be, I think, it might be a little bit more challenging to find that single family home. With that said, there are many fine apartment complexes in and around the Dayton area that would probably satisfy certainly a single person, size-wise. Be probably a little tight for a family, but there are many options. But the bottom line to all of those options, even the rental option, is that it's the most affordable you're going to see wherever you go in the U.S.
Right. Thank you very much, Steve, and we'll look forward to talking to you more.